Welcome to Coffee and Geography, where my guests and I geek out about the world and everything on it, discovering that we are all geographers in some way, shape or form. I'm your host, Kit, and my pronouns are they, them or she, her. So settle down with a brew, hit that subscribe or follow button, and enjoy the listen. Hello everybody, I apologise in advance because I'm not quite sure how me and my guest are going to keep this to below an hour, let alone 45 minutes, because I described this as, now this goes to show what links us, right? Sci-fi. Imagine two planets occupying the same space in different dimensions, right? Completely alike, but different in a little bit of ways. But somehow, which is this podcast right now and our chat, these dimensions collide. It's going to be chaos. That is me and Katie Nickolaou. Hello, Katie. How are you doing?
Hello. I am doing great. That's a very good description of what's about to go on here. It's like a train that goes off the tracks and falls off a viaduct and runs down a ravine. Like, it's just going to go in all sorts of directions.
Well, actually, I like that analogy. It's not like it collapses, blows into flames. It's going to keep running. It's like, how is this thing continuing to run off the tracks? Yeah, that's exactly what this is going to be. Folks, so, I mean, a lot of you listening to this podcast are regular listeners. You know what I'm like, right? Let me give you Katie's bio, and then you'll go, oh, yeah, Kit, I can see what you mean. All right, you ready? So Katie is an AMS, which is American Meteorological Society Certified Meteorologist at WLN. I can't say it in an American way. WLNS. That was better.
WLNS.
There you go. In Lansing, Michigan. And when Katie was 5, she was in a tornado. We'll definitely talk about that, which launched her lifelong love of weather. Now, beyond meteorology, Katie is a massive geek. Here we go, folks. From Star Trek and Doctor Who to Good Omens and DuckTales. Woo! Katie loves so many random fandoms. She combines her love of weather and TV movies by creating Fandom Forecasts, videos where she gives the weather forecast for fictional worlds. Oh, okay. I just heard loads of people turn their radio off. That's it. They're like, exactly. we can't deal with this, Kit. This is just going to be too much chaos.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to this, needless to say. So you're over there in Michigan. So you are, now let me get this right. I do have friends in Michigan. Are you 5 hours behind us or 6 hours behind us? I think you're 6. I think you're 6 behind the UK. So what's the time there now?
Time changes. Oh, right now we are at 3:43 in the afternoon.
Oh, 5 hours. Okay, 3:43. So it's 8:43 here.
Daylight Standard Time, Daylight Saving Time.
Exactly.
Yada, yada.
Yeah, it's all overrated anyway. I just want it to stay. Right, we're going straight into it, aren't we now? What is your opinion on Daylight Savings Time? It makes total more sense to stick with it. Don't change the clocks back in the autumn, please, or in the fall. Are you one of the, in that camp or in your, no, we should switch it up? What do you reckon? From a meteorologist's point of view?
For me, keep it consistent. Pick one or the other. Because you get so many people, the change of time, it causes stress on your health, and people are statistically more likely to get heart attacks just because you are timed off and everything. And it just, we survived well before we invented it, and we'll survive well after it's gone.
Now, actually, you gave me an interesting link with your family connections. You got family in Dundee up in Scotland,
Scotland.
And I'm now. I would like to know what my friends in Scotland would think about this, because I keep hearing different arguments about daylight savings time. Like a lot of people up further north than us are like, no, we want to keep. We're so fed up of it being so dark at so early or whatever, or we want to keep. Yeah. So maybe they have more sway in us in the higher latitudes. I don't know.
You always get people who argue on the eastern side of a time zone or the western side of a time zone.
Yes, that's true.
They don't want the sun to rise at 3 a.m., but they don't want the sun to set at 3 p.m. It's like, just move to the middle of the time zone. We'll make ruts without people in this earth, and we'll all just be in the central of a time zone. Or we could do just do Zulu time, do Greenwich Mean Time, whatever works.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, just consistency.
In the future, it's just going to become standard Earth time, isn't it? I mean,
it's true. We can hope. We get on a Bajoran time scale. 6-hour day.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds nice. Because that means you'll only work for about 2 hours or something. Yeah. Well, that would work.
I would love to have extra time in my day.
This is true. This is true. Come to think of it, yeah. So, folks, what you may not realize is that if you go to the United States, and I have connections in the USA. My family is half American as well. And when we do the road trip from where my wife is from in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, out to our family place in Bozeman, Montana, yes, the house where we have a house at exactly the same place where the Vulcans are going to land.
So I'm crashing there in 2063, right?
Yeah,
you got an extra room.
We'll invite you. We'll invite you over at 2063.
Perfect.
You're there. You're on the guest list.
Yes.
So when we're driving from east to west, so you gain an hour, but where you gain an hour is ridiculous. So it's in the middle of North Dakota, and
yep.
Didn't they move the boundary because it dissected? Was it Bismarck? I think it used to dissect Bismarck in North Dakota, or Jamestown. I can't remember, but it used to bisect
one of the towns.
Yeah, so because the river ran through it, and I had the time zone through the river. So on the eastern side of this town, it would be an hour later than the western side of that town. That must screw people up. Yeah. I think they moved it for that reason, that they couldn't have a whole township in like two different time zones. But just go show how arbitrary time zones are.
Exactly. We'll make the cows in the field deal with it. Humans, no, we have to be in the same.
You know what I reckon? I reckon there's a place. Look this up, Kate. You might even know it, but there's a place called New Salem in North Dakota where there's the world's giant, largest Holstein cow. It's a giant statue of a Holstein cow, right? And I reckon that the split between Mountain Time and Central Time should be through the cow.
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
Her left legs, which are east, so the left side of her body should be east, and the west side of her body should be west, and the cow should be the timekeeper.
That'd be amazing.
In a perpetual state
that's
of
a very North
flux.
Dakotan thing to do, too.
Yeah. Go see New Salem 2, the cow from two different times.
Yeah, the postcard writes itself.
Right, New Salem Tourist Board, you owe me some commission on that one.
Yes.
So now we've got 7 minutes in. I haven't even got into the first two bits of the podcast. So, which is, I always ask my guests, what do they tend to drink? What brew do they usually have with them when they go to like a coffee shop or something like that? So if we were sitting down in a coffee shop talking geography and stuff like that, what would you usually order, Katie? And do you have any of it with you?
See, I usually would go with a hot chocolate because, fun fact, I get migraine headaches, so I can't have caffeine. I survive on sugar and charisma, and it works. I shouldn't have done that while you were taking a sip, but I do have a bottle of water with me because I am in the middle of summer and I could not bring myself to make hot chocolate.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's a bit of a hot chocolate with you, yeah, and thank you for letting me swallow before.
Yeah.
Sugar and charisma. So you've got a bit of hot chocolate. I've got my caffeine-free tea at this time of night. It has to be, I am British.
True.
And
it's tea nonetheless.
It's tea nonetheless. And you're out there in Lansing, Michigan. Now, folks, what I want you to do right now, I want you to hold your right hand, palm facing you, please. Katie knows where I'm going with this. Right. And close your fingers. Not like that. Now, that's Michigan. Michigan looks like your right hand, palm face towards you, right? Now, you see that little dip in the middle of your palm? So Lansing is about just south of that. That's where Lansing is in Michigan. See, once a geography teacher, always a geography teacher.
See, the way I remember is I cup my hand, and where my middle finger lands, I always say is Lansing.
Yep.
It's off by a wee bit, but it works.
Not quite the Vulcan salute, but almost.
It's like some weird Michigan variant.
Yeah, it's the Michigan version of Live Long and Prosper, which I don't know what the hell that was.
Sickly llama.
Sickly llama, yeah. How you doing with the chaos, folks? Are you enjoying this?
They better be. We're 9 minutes in and we're just getting started.
Yeah. So, folks, if you've got kids, you know what sickly llama, happy llama, crazy llama, you know what that is, right? So, if you don't have kids, you still have no clue what we're talking about, which is beautiful.
Blissful ignorance.
So, okay, are you born and bred Midwestern in Michigan? Or is that your patch? Or have you... So the question I like to ask folks in this podcast is, how does your location form your identity? And if you've traveled in other places, how does your travels and those experiences of other places have kind of like formed as part of your identity too. So what is Lansing about Katie?
Absolutely. Well, I do think Michigan is very much ingrained in who I am, because the weather drove me to get into this. We get tornadoes, we get snow, we get all the chaos. It's a running joke. We're the craziest state that gets all the crazy weather. And I lived here for 18 years, and then I decided to go to college about 2.5 hours down the road, which is a very Midwestern thing to say. We measure in time, not miles or kilometers, none of that. And then
that's just down the road, really, isn't it? To be honest, in the States,
it
2.5
really
hours.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Indiana, still around Lake Michigan, and then out of the blue, I've been storm chasing throughout college. I went for 4 summers, and I've storm chased from Montana to Texas, New Mexico to Missouri, pretty much every state you can think of, unless it was on the east or west coast, and that gave me a great view of like what the United States can have. You have mega cities, and then you also have dirt. Like, it's great. But on one of those chases, my senior year, I got a phone call saying, "Hey, we want you to work as a morning meteorologist, weekday, so not weekend, which means better pay." And they were in Sioux City, Iowa, which is where Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota meet, practically in the middle of the United States.
Yep.
And I said yes, and I grew to love it out there in the plains. Oh, I love the plains. And then this job came up in Michigan. I was like, I want to go home for a bit. I'll probably end up in Sioux City again. Who knows? I'm just all over. And I've been to England, Scotland, and France. Really love Scotland. Edinburgh is just, gotta go back.
Yep.
So yeah, and we went there because I'm half Scottish. I'm also half Macedonian. So it's a nice way to get in touch with your roots while also getting home.
Which would explain the last name. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Very Mediterranean. I say I have the Macedonian and Scottish temperament, so you can imagine how that goes.
Now, I think, okay, I don't want to stereotype our northern neighbours. I mean, there's a lot of banter that goes on between the English and the Scots, of course. And one of my best friends comes from just outside of Edinburgh in the borders. I don't know if you're listening, Clive, but we take the mickey out of each other all the time. So, but. But what would you say, therefore, is the Scottish temperament, and therefore, by extension, would be the Macedonian temperament? Then?
I'd say a Scottish temperament is very nice until you aren't nice to them. And then it's like, oh, no, you can't do that. And the Macedonian, we're just like, yeah. We got goats. We got cheese. Baklava. Ouzo. Hey, party time until you don't party. And then it turns.
I see the similarity between the Macedonians and the Scots now.
Yes, absolutely. We're great unless you aren't. And then it turns.
I love it. Yeah, I've just got my friend Clive in my head now. Clive is one of my bestest friends ever, and he lives rent-free, lovingly rent-free in my head. But no, Clive's definitely the same as like having a good time, and what a wonderful human being. And then, but yeah, you got on his bad side. Well, the kids misbehave in his class, he wouldn't have it. That's for sure.
Oh, I can imagine that classroom. We went too far.
But use humor.
And I love the David Tennant and Catherine Tate Red Nose Day in the classroom, where he just progressively gets more Scottish, and he's just berating her. It's like, and eventually you just won't understand it.
Yeah, but am I bothered? Yeah, but am I bothered though? Yeah, but am I bothered? Some kids actually are like that. You know, I mean, over in this, in all fair, look, folks, I've told you many times this podcast, the young people are not the problem in the schools. I loved working with young people, right? It was not the young people that drove me out of the job. I can tell you that. That's why I still do my other day job, is because the young people are going and do it. So
there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, now you've going out to the plains in Iowa. I mean, I know that part of the world, you know, it's just across the border from Minnesota and whatnot. So the geography of the United States is pretty iconic. I mean, it's a massive country. I mean, if we take Alaska and Hawaii out of it, they're not important. No, they're not important.
That doesn't even count.
Let's just focus on the lower 48. And what we mean by that, folks, is the big geographical area of mass there, not counting the detached parts of Alaska and Hawaii. it's a very distinct geography, and it really does give you some fantastic climatic zones, including this propensity to have things like Tornado Alley. There's a couple of things I'd like you to describe for us, Katie, is that I mean, I knew that the Great Lakes, for example, had a huge impact on the weather and climate of the area. But I never knew until I studied it myself, like to the extent that they controlled the climate of that part of the world. So, I mean, it must be. I mean, take Minnesota, where my wife's family is from. There must be such a big difference between, say, a forecaster in Minnesota and a forecaster in Michigan, even though you're effectively only 2 states away, because of the Great Lakes. So, if you could explain that to our listeners, it's such a fantastic, just mind-blowing thing when it comes to meteorology. So, take us through what you have to look at as a meteorologist in that part of the world.
Oh, get ready for a crash course, because
Here we go,
it
folks.
really, there is so much. It changes the weather in every season, and it has a lot to do with the water temperature. In the summer, the lakes are cooler than the air, and so that typically causes sinking motion, and sometimes that can cause storms to fizzle out at times, and it kind of protects us from some severe weather. Whereas on the other hand, in the winter, the lakes are warmer than the air above, so that causes rising motion, and you get just heaps and heaps of lake effect snow. And it's absolutely incredible. You can have clear visibility in one neighborhood. You go down 2 blocks and it's a blizzard, whiteout conditions. So you really, as a meteorologist, have to be able to pay attention to the water temperature, pay attention to the air temperature. How will they interact? And I mean, that's just with the stuff that falls from the sky. We can also get meteo tsunamis. So tsunamis, but on a lake. That's how big they are with that. And you get storms that blow across, and it's like a bathtub just sloshing back and forth from Michigan to Wisconsin and back. And oh, it's incredible. So that's why I went to school in Valparaiso, Indiana, actually, is because they have lake effect snow classes. They have Great Lakes specific meteorology.
That's cool.
And it was totally training me to come back here to do weather in my home state.
Oh, it is so fascinating, because just before we started recording, I was explaining to you that my dissertation for my degree, my environmental science degree, was about the storm tracks and storm surges down the North Sea, and so I'm already picturing, because the North Sea is more of a peninsula of water than it is, than it is with the lakes. But I can just imagine this sloshing motion of the lakes, and they are such a huge body of water that they do have this kind of, they are influenced almost like, with these sea dynamics. So you must use quite a lot of ocean dynamics in those lakes. They're so dynamic and they're so large.
Oh yeah, the thing is, we get water spouts all the time. We actually just had one as of recording this morning in the Straits of Mackinac, which is the connector between the Upper and Lower Peninsula. If you go and look it up, just Mackinac water spout, you will see a brilliant photo of what looks like a solid tornado, because water spouts are typically wimpy. They don't do a lot, but this thing was a chunk. And I just, oh my gosh, it was a big old tornado and I loved it. But it's
oh my
really
God,
special being able to see. We didn't even have any real severe weather in the area, and just because the lake was warm, rising motion just so happened we've had a warm stretch here, and you end up with a water spout.
Here we go. 58 minutes ago, a video here posted on YouTube. My goodness. Now, folks, we know that I know I'm saying this from Norfolk in the United Kingdom, where we don't spell place names like we say them. Like Wyndham is not how spelled Wyndham, and stuff like that. I know that, folks. But Mackinac is not spelled as it sounds. It is it's Mac, Mack, and then it's INAC. So that's how you spell Mackinac. So if you just Google that, I'll put a link in the description. But here we go. 79 views already. 58 minutes ago. This is from ABC 13 or ABC 13.
And ABC 13, yeah.
So water spout in Lake Huron spotted near. Wow, that is a beast.
It's I use like animal terms like, that's a fluffy boy if it's like fuzzy and not well formed, or like, oh, it's a skinny one. And basically they're puppies. They're sky puppies to me.
Yeah. That's sweet. Well, when I say beast folk, I'm not thinking about the movie Twister, with Bill Paxton.
Oh, yes.
I know. I do. You must have seen
that movie.
Go on. Between us, let's work out how many times we've watched it. It's got to be. Are we talking about dozens? Or maybe 100. Are
Doesn't.
we pushing 100 maybe between us? Maybe gotta be.
Probably. Oh, between the two of us, definitely pushing 100.
Cow.
Oh, I think that's the same one.
Another cow. No, that's the same one.
Yeah, you can't explain it. You can't predict it. Pay attention to what's in front of you, Joe. Me. Oh, any line, any character.
Yeah, God, I love that movie. It's one of my. I watched that on repeat when I was, I don't know, yeah, when I was probably like 10, 11 or whenever it came out. But yeah, that was so. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not a big beast like you'd see on Twister, folks. You know, it is quite a skinny, but it is nevertheless very, very
big
impressive.
For Michigan, definitely.
Yeah, northern Michigan.
That's at a equivalent latitude as Minneapolis, practically.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's pretty high.
That's
far
high.
north,
That's north
for a water spout.
It's 45 degrees north.
Yeah, it's just over the 45th parallel.
That's right. Yeah. Cool.
I get to drive past it every time I go up to vacation there.
Nice. So we got the influence of the Great Lakes, which I think is amazing. And yeah, and I've been to Minnesota so many times when the that snow can kick in and everything like that. But then my friend and I got a couple of friends in Michigan. Don't know if you're listening, Alison, who comes from Troy, and Nicole, who comes from Waterford, just outside of Detroit. But they will know exactly what you're talking about how suddenly you just get this sudden blanket of snow and like, but yeah, a few townships away, they're not like, what's this snow? But it's us Brits are like this, Katie, as well. We're like, it'll be absolutely downpouring with rain in one place, and then somebody else will be like, well, what's this going on? Because where I am in this township in South Norfolk, we tend to have, disappointingly for me as a meteorologist, we have like the cluster of cells will come across the map. You think, oh, it's going to come in, thunderstorms, here we come. And it's like, oh, we're coming up to Kittstown. We might as well just diverge around it. I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. Oh. And then you got this nice cell going north of us, this other cell going south of us towards the east. I'm like, oh, all right, fine.
That's when I pull a Crowley with my parents and I just go, yeah, you see that? Yeah. Yes. Good. Get in the car.
Yeah. Get in the car. We're going storm chasing.
And they go with it, surprisingly. They just hop in. They don't even question it.
Let's keep her happy.
Yep.
In Norfolk, next time you come over here to the UK, you've got to come visit and I'll take you around. But the skies are as big here as they are in somewhere like Montana. And you can see, I mean, obviously we don't get like the super, we very rarely get super clusters and mega clusters and things like that, but we certainly get quite beautiful cumulonimbus cells and things like that. So, and we'll get the odd funnel cloud. And if we're lucky, we might get like a little puff of a little tail.
It's like, ooh, there you go.
But we do get tornadoes in this country, but they're very small. But we can have roof tiles lifted off, and has happened. So
it counts. It's still a tornado.
Still a tornado. You were talking about the heat of the Great Lakes, and you must be keeping a really close eye on like sea temperatures and water temperatures at the moment, because they are, especially in the North Atlantic, they are incredibly high. Statistically significantly high. I mean, have you seen any kind of like anything like that in the Great Lakes, or are they quite insulated from this temperature dome in the North Atlantic?
Yeah. Thankfully, we get a little bit of help from upwelling, and it changes for us because we get more active systems that come through practically every week. And as they blow across the lake, you tend to get that cooler water that rises up, and it mixes it out and it keeps it fairly tempered. But I've been keeping an eye on Florida, down towards the Florida Keys, because they've had water temperatures in the 90s, which that bleaches everything. You don't have to be a marine biologist to know that is bad. So just keeping an eye on it, especially with hurricane season. We haven't had hardly any activity here in the United States, but it just takes one, and you have built a powder keg with that heat in Florida, and it just takes one system. But thankfully, that ties in with the ENSO cycle, the El Nino, the La Nina off of South America. And so that's increasing wind shear, that's decreasing storms, and it all is like this messed up puzzle that we have to try to figure out with no picture to run off of.
Yeah, in fact, you've mentioned exactly. So me and another geography teacher friend, we did a coffee and geography short where we talk about the current news events. It's like 15 minutes, and we were trying to in 15 minutes to try and talk about the onset of El Nino. And one of the things I said, I remember, I said, I'm picking up different elements of courses I took at university, but then I plugged them all together and I said, you've got to look for these early developing storms across the Atlantic, developing into tropical storms, stuff like that. But they're being chopped up by this air blender, as they're approaching the Caribbean because of the wind shear. And so we're in this really weird situation where we've got conditions primed for a lot of intense hurricane activity, but this wind shear is thankfully there to kind of stop the worst from happening at the moment. But of course, it's early days at the moment.
Defense.
Yeah, it is, because if that wind shear is not there, those people in the Lesser Antilles into the Gulf of Mexico, they're in for a hell of a ride. Fortunately, the wind shear is there and it's strong, and we've had what, 2 tropical storms, 3 tropical storms, which have dissipated. Hit that air blender, as I call it. Yeah, it's pretty scary to see like the kind of the trajectory that we're going on. And then I looked at the sea surface temperature anomaly maps. So anomaly, folks, is when you've got the differences between the norm. So you take a baseline and you call that your average. So it depends on what you're looking at. But if the further you are from that baseline, the higher the anomaly. And I looked at this map from NASA, which showed the El Nino of 1997-98 and the sea surface anomaly.
Classic.
And there is, because we were saying that the El Nino of 97-98 was intense, but if you look at the global picture of the anomaly map, there's so much red on that map for today. Whereas in 97-98, you've obviously got clear El Nino signal, but it's nothing like today. It is interesting as a meteorologist, damn scary for humanity, I can tell you.
Oh, yes.
But how do you balance that, Kate? Because for me, who loves to geek out about this stuff, on one hand, I'm a concerned person when it comes to, climate change and things like that. And on the other hand, I can't stop geeking out about it. And sometimes I do feel, I don't know if this is a term of a geek's guilt. I don't even know if that's a real thing, but if that makes sense. Do you feel like that at any time when you're thinking when you're reporting on these extreme weather events and climate changes, like mixing it up a bit, that it's exciting because you're passionate about this stuff, but then you take a step back and think, I shouldn't be excited in this way. I mean, has that hit you at all? Like it's hit me?
Absolutely. I have a professor from college that I absolutely adore. Dr. Bart Wolf. And he's a severe weather specialist. And he was the one who led our storm chases. And he made sure, especially with the younger generation, he always prefaced our storm chases with, we never root for storms. We're just there if they form. And after that, everything else is science.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of young meteorologists and even weather enthusiasts that we've seen who are developing platforms on social media really need to understand is you can't root for the storms, guys, because that vilifies the entire scientific field.
Yes. Yep.
They think we want this to happen. No, they happen. We're just there to study it, because the ultimate goal of meteorology is to save lives. Like whether you're on TV or you're in research, you're in the government, whatever it may be, we're there to help. And so that it definitely, you feel it when I chase tornadoes and I see a tornado, I'm like, yes, not because it's destroying things, but because my forecast verified. So I try to separate the scientific aspect from the human aspect, and I can feel both. That's the real importance, is you don't just shun like, oh, people are dying. Like, no, that doesn't happen. You basically, you go, oh my gosh, I'm studying this science. It's real. It's in front of me. And also, I feel incredible empathy for the people whose lives were just affected for me to study the science.
Yes.
I guess the way I think is, it's going to happen either way if we're there to study it or not. So we might as well go out and try.
That makes me feel a hell of a lot better. It really does. Especially, it's one of I give talks to young people and a lot of people about climate change, for example, and I revel in the story, but not the consequences of the story. And actually, I've had a lot of people turn around and say to me, like, Kit, we really do appreciate like how you communicate, like you're not sugarcoating it, you're being real, but you're also making us feel like this is a phenomenon that we all should be passionate about because of the potential dangers it brings. And I'm like, that's what squares that, that circle for me. So that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's the science. The science is what excites you. And it's as you just said there yourself, that tornado is going to happen. That hurricane is going to happen. It doesn't care if there are humans in the way. It's just going to happen. Yes, our interference will make them situations worse, whether it's climate change, changing the atmospheric processes, or whether it is getting in the bloody way.
Having levees that fail, we found that one out.
2005.
It's tricky too. Yeah. Well, and you end up getting human infrastructure that is subpar, and then that people are like, oh, these storms, they're strong, and they are, but they are survivable if you have proper infrastructure. We found ways to adapt, but it's just not in the mainstream yet. And if humans keep expanding, well, like these cities, Omaha, Minneapolis, Sioux City, Iowa, they're continuing to grow, and that creates a larger base for tornadoes to hit. It's like, tornado hit a penny or tornado hit New York City. Which one is more likely with the same size tornado? It's just basic statistics.
Yes.
Likely to hit New York than a penny because of area.
And that's it, folks. And that's I feel so validated now, actually. With my because I know that sometimes, because I am very passionate, I do geek out about a lot of this stuff, and I don't want to come across as ironically, for someone who's actually a very empathetic person, I don't want to come across apathetic to all this. And there's this one tweet. This was a few years ago, from someone, whoever was doing the socials for BBC Weather, got it completely wrong. It was a few years ago, pre-COVID, and they were tweeting as though the breaking of a potential summer record was an exciting event. And the tone of the tweet was like, today could be the day we will break this. I'm like, and I actually call my friends out when they talk about, shame the rain's here. We had glorious, hot, sunny weather yesterday. And I'm just thinking, you cannot frame, because I'm someone who doesn't do very well in hot weather, anything above 27, 28 degrees Celsius, I actually physically start to suffer. So,
oh no.
Yeah. So going to Minnesota in the summer is not a great idea, which I do anyway.
Yeah.
I am very, very acutely aware. And of course, as climate change happens and I move more further into the vulnerable age group, we're moving into potentially dangerous climate. Yeah, a new norm in dangerous climate when I'm just about reaching the vulnerable population, and that's not going to be pretty. So, folks, I get it. Yeah. I get it. Hi folks, a chance for you to recharge your brew, but also a polite prod to remind you that it's so easy to support this podcast. Simply liking, sharing, rating and reviewing means that it will get on more people's radar. Also, there are a few links down in the description which may be of mutual benefit. Please do check them out. Go on, right. Let's change tack, right? And we're going to spill the beans. I'm going to combine two things with spilling the beans here, Katie, and that is you say that you also are a voice actress, which
I am.
So
I have an IMDb page with 1 credit.
Oh, okay, good. That's going in the show notes. Okay, should I look that up?
I'm very proud of it.
No, I'm not going to look it up yet. I'll look it up in a minute. I'm going to keep it surprised. Right. Okay. So here's my. I've got a little bit of a plan for us, right? Because we're both absolute sci-fi nuts. And I won't bore everybody now. I've told the story before, but I'll tell you how I know Matt Smith after we finish recording.
Ooh.
I'll save it for that. I think I've told it a couple of times already, and if I haven't, folks, sorry, we haven't got time. You'll have to just guess what my link is. So this is what I'm going to do. So I've gone on to Memory Alpha, right? Now, Memory Alpha, folks, is basically the Star Trek Wikipedia, all right? And I typed in weather as the search. Now, folks, this is all the weather that's actually got its own listing on the Star Trek Wiki. So if you click on them, they'll give you examples of episodes where they're used. So we've got, obviously, you ready for this, Kate? We've got clouds, Coriolis force, fog, heat wave, humidity, hurricane, the Taurian ice storm. Nice. Atmospheric pressure, high pressure trough, isobaric pressure, katabatic pressure. And these are all normal phenomenon, folks. Cloudburst, rainbow, snow, storms. Some of these now get a bit sci-fi, but you've got dust storm, blizzard, electrical storm, firestorm, ionic storm, that's Star Trek, lightning storm, radiation storm, snowstorm, thunderstorm, almost there, folks. tornado, wind, typhoon, asteroid storm, ion storm, magnetic storm, magnetoscopic storm, plasma storm, solar wind. That's just in
was
Star
waiting
Trek.
for plasma storm.
Yeah.
Love a good plasma storm.
That's a good plasma storm. Okay, well, we're going to go with that then. Plasma storm. Right. So, what should we choose? I'll let you choose the setting, right? So, we've got... Can you name me a very famous area of plasma storms that we used
the
to...
Badlands.
There you go, the Badlands. I thought you called that.
Absolutely.
So, describe to us the Badlands, then Katie, and then I think we might riff on this one with the improv that I've got in my mind.
All right.
So, what are the Badlands?
Well, so yes, the Badlands are located near Bajor, and they happen to be an area of high plasma activity. It's typically used by the Maquis to hide from both Cardassians and the Federation ships that try to seek them out and bring them to justice in one way or another.
Lovely.
I'm going to present your voice at that point.
Okay. Now, folks, Katie actually has a credit on IMDb as a voice actress, right? It's legit. I have a hobby-based amateur level interest in drama. I used to teach drama at high school as well. And you know that I can do some voices. So we're going to do some improv, right? This is just crazy. So let's set the scene, right? This is going to be set in the Star Trek universe, folks, in the Badlands where these plasma storms are taking place. Right. Should we set the scene with... Should we switch characters? I don't know. Should we just rock with it? I don't know.
I'm good with whatever it may be. I could go anything from ore mining to...
Yeah, ore mining, starship, I don't know.
Maquis and myself.
Right. Maquis and myself. Okay, folks, this is a 2 or 3 minute improv called Maquis and Myself. So in comes the Tellarite captain. These damn plasma storms. If I come up with another plasma burst coming off the starboard bow, I swear I'm going to have another argument with the chief engineer.
Well, you can't really blame the plasma storms. We just happen to be in their place.
I can blame whoever I want. I'm the captain.
Well,
I'm the captain. I will blame this plasma storm.
Sir, if you really want to get out of these plasma storms, I know of a great way. There's an array that could take us to a whole different side of the universe. We just have to activate it.
Ooh, Helm, set a course for this array.
Boom, 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 boom. I don't know how to do the sound of the array.
There you go, Captain.
Flash.
Are you happier now?
Captain, we appear to be flung 70,000 light years into the Delta Quadrant. Fascinating.
There really is a lot to see. I'd love to analyze some of these planets. They look fascinating from a mineralistic standpoint.
I can't see an array. Who do I have to blame for this? I can see space dust. I can see debris. Hang on. What's that we're picking up? On the sensors.
I actually think that's another ship.
Analyze. On screen.
USS Voyager. What? That's one of the ships that was hunting us.
I think I'm going to stop it there. My throat's hurting me.
I'm like, okay, how many high-pitched voices? All of a sudden, Chakotay's on the ship. He's like, that's Benny. Benny, get over here. Come on, join the Voyager crew.
So... If a starship with a Tellarite captain was flung into the Delta Quadrant instead of Janeway and Voyager, that's how it would have went, folks.
Oh, brilliant. I'm awful at improv, but that went well.
Yeah, me too. I haven't done that for ages, to be honest.
That was fun.
But I should have brought in my Gollum. Oh, I could have done it. It's like, engineering report. It's just so stupid, Precious. The warp core's about to break. No, it's not, you stupid fool. It's just a little spike in the deuterium matrix. Yes. Stupid. Evac engineering. Come. I could have done that. But, Oh, no, I think I've lost my guest.
That's absolutely brilliant. I want that now. I want Gollum to be the engineer.
Oh, no. All right, folks. Right, I think...
The ship is doomed.
Katie and I are going to work on some scripts, and we are going to be the only 2 voice actors in this entire thing. We'll have about 16 different characters.
There has to be a fan fiction out there somewhere for this.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Totally agree. Oh, where do I go from there?
There's no good way.
Yeah. Oh no, let's go back to your voice acting. You've got one credit.
Mhm.
So now we can reveal. So what is that one credit for? Because I certainly want to look this up.
Yes, it's for a podcast, the Aslyntha podcast, and I actually ended up playing a barmaid, which was not just a barmaid; she also was orchestrating some behind the scenes stuff. But you may have noticed from just listening to this show, I have a very Disney princess animated voice. I don't know why I have it. Sometimes I get a southern drawl. Sometimes, if I watch a lot of Doctor Who, I slip into a Scottish accent. It just kind of evolves. But I naturally, through my job, I'm very animated, and that comes through with my voice. So I just played myself as a barmaid.
That's wonderful. So you played a character called Zayla in
Zayla, love her.
Zayla, and it's so what is this podcast about? So it's called Aslyntha, and what was it about? In 2021, you did 2 episodes.
Yes, it was actually, it's funny. It was a friend of mine whose parents own a comic book store in Sioux City, and we became very good friends, the whole family. And he wanted to start this podcast, and he's like, I need a voice actor. And I was like, hello, I would love to give this a shot. And he's like, okay, well, cool. It's about a roaming band of just adventurers, kind of think D&D, but podcast form. And just they have these stories and amazing times together. And I was just happy to play a small part in that, being the barmaid who's like, hey, how can I help you? Here, this will help, traveler. And like, just getting things going. And it's nice to be a part of a narrative that I can go back and listen to instead of just, my own voice talking to myself doing the weather. There's other people here.
Folks, right now, listen, I need to put this out there. I mean, I know I geek out on Star Trek a lot, but hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy, right, folks?
Yes.
What we need to do, Katie, we need to get on the blower, as we say over here in the UK, and we need to talk to the showrunners and say, look, if we manage to save Star Trek Prodigy and it goes into a 3rd season, we've got to get us on as maybe doing some kind of weather forecast voiceover. They visit a planet and maybe they said we're detecting. It's like I don't know. They come on and Gwen's trying to decode some kind of transmission from a planet, and when they pick it up, it's somebody doing the weather forecast in this planet, and that'll be you and your voice. Would you do it in an alien voice if they can't translate? Would you try and do it in an alien voice first, and then before they get the universal translator working?
I totally could. I could just be like, I mean, you could probably take some random mix. Like, I love to, because I'm Greek Orthodox, but I also have friends who are Russian Orthodox. I get a bunch of these like translations. So it's like, and like, I could just take that and turn it just a little bit and it would sound like an alien language. Yes. It'd be perfect.
Yes. That's it. Now, if that wasn't a mini audition, I don't know what is. Perfect.
Exactly.
But we're here, right? You've got it's kit@geogrammaries.com, and we'll give Katie's contact details at the end. You know where to find us. Yes, and my friend also from Trek Culture, Sean Ferrick, you can come too.
Yes.
You can come.
Love Trek Culture.
Yeah, I've had Sean on this podcast as well, who was absolutely a delight. He was like, I know nothing about geography. I was like, don't worry, I've got you covered. We'll Star Trek it.
If you know fantasy geography, that's way harder than actual geography.
I know, seriously. So what got you into to stop this becoming a Trek podcast? And Andy Plasties, if you're listening for the great, well, no, you got the podcast that Sean does. I'm sure they'd love to have you on. They've got the Trek Culture podcast. I'm sure they'd love to be on. Andy Plasties as well, does the Great Derelict Sci-Fi podcast as well, who loves the stuff about Doctor and stuff. I'm sure they can find some time for you on this.
And the great thing is I work from midnight to 10 a.m., which in any time zone is just awful for a social life. So I get my social interactions through podcasts, particularly with those in normal time zones like over in England, because it's way easier when it's evening for y'all and 2 p.m. for me. See, there's a Southern coming out. I don't know why the Southern comes out, but it does.
So your love of Star Trek, where did it come from then? Because I've seen your love of Star Trek because I saw a wonderful weather forecast that you did where you were in cosplay. You were in the blue science uniform, Starfleet uniform. So
You gotta get it out.
yeah, I mean, what brought you into this realm?
Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 7, Gambit Part 2.
Gambit.
Uh, which, to this day, I've not met another soul on this planet who started their Star Trek journey with that episode.
That's a pretty interesting one, but that's like a treasure. It's almost like Indiana Jones in space, Gambit, really, I think.
Yeah, well, it's brilliant. You get the art, the archaeology, you have the heist, you have two-parter. No, but it's interesting because Star Trek came to me in a part of my life that was just absolutely off the rails and not in the fun kind. I was in middle school, which is trash. Everyone's hormonal, and you get these awful bullies.
Yes,
and I was a goody two-shoes, still am, and was good at science, good at math. I knew what I wanted to be since I was 5. So it's like, yeah, naturally, I'm going to make sure I can make that happen. And the other kids didn't like that. And it got to the point where I was actually, not to bring down the level of the room, but I became severely anorexic. I had horrible anxiety to the point I wouldn't leave my house. I missed a month of school, like, just because I was afraid of germs and everything. It was so psychological. And then one night I was walking through the bedroom and my dad was sitting there watching Star Trek because he grew up watching Next Generation. And I was like, might as well kill some time. I'll watch this. And it just was amazing. I distinctly remember the next day I got in the car. We went with my parents to go and get an oil change. I was like, yeah, there's this guy named Picard and there's this guy named Riker. And I started binging TNG. And I was like, okay, that was fun. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, TOS, Enterprise. And I just kept going until I saw them all. And it really helped me metamorphosize from this person who was afraid to leave the house and even talk to whatever this is that you're listening to. And I think it's because it taught me the science to think through the anxiety and say, hey, this isn't rational. I'm not going to get germs just by breathing the air. It has to be in a specific set of circumstances. And it also made me realize I was missing out. Because they had fun adventures, even if it was almost killing them. But they kept coming back every week. And so I wanted to go and have adventures of my own. And now I do.
It's amazing. Yeah, and I wanted to ask Katie that question. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Katie. I mean, I wanted Kate to share that with you because I want everyone to understand and realize that on one side, you don't get it, that's completely valid. If you're not a sci-fi nerd or whatever it is, and you look at folks like me and Katie who dress up in cosplay, the last con over here, I went as Nurse Chapel from Strange New Worlds, like God, like Jess Bush rocks that anything she wears as Nurse Chapel. But
absolutely.
Why do we do that? Why do we put why is there a fandom such that? It's because for some of us, and for quite a lot of us, we have found companionship. We have found a place where we didn't have any. I didn't have a particularly good time at school either, in many ways than one. And, it was Star Trek that kept me hopeful, kept me grounded. And then, modern Star Trek with the LGBTQ representation has been absolutely wonderful and amazing. And so we take comfort in this. And it really does make us the people who we are today, that we feel confident. I can't imagine, Katie, I mean, both me and you in kind of like lower secondary school here, middle school you, I can't imagine us of that past sitting here doing this podcast. I can't imagine it.
Oh, absolutely not. Like it's mind-boggling how far you can come. Like so fun fact, this morning I woke up to an email from the assistant to the vice president of the United States inviting me to the White House to discuss the weather.
Whoa.
And I accepted. It is like, what is this life that I'm living? Yes. I went from tiny Michigan to this.
Oh my God.
So it's, I have something to look forward to.
That's amazing. Oh, it's amazing how much parallel there is between you and me, because I had the exact same, oh my God moment. I got an email from, I consult for the Geographical Association here in the United Kingdom, and they emailed me and said, "Kit, we've had an email from this publishing company who publish National Geographic kids books, and they asked us for a recommendation about who to write the next book for National Geographic kids, and we put your name forward." And I'm like, "What? And I wrote back saying, "You're pulling my leg, aren't you? You're pulling my." So it's amazing how that email inviting you to the White House, that email saying, can you write this book for Nat Geo Kids? It's like,
that's a huge reach.
I know.
That's worldwide publishing.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the journey that we've both been on from where we have in the past, we've got this thing in common that we love the weather and we love climatology. We've found confidence in family and things like Trek and sci-fi.
Yeah.
I can, the parallels is clear for this. So the last thing we're going to do is we are all geographers, Katie. So what this is that we link all the guests together by stringing words together. Now, last episode, I spoke to the wonderful Rebecca Osborne, who is a creative graphic recorder where she listens to talks or meetings and things like that, and she'll record what's being said graphically through cartoons, pictograms and something. It's brilliant. She's such an amazing human being, great person, allied to the LGBT community as well. And so when I asked her to come up with, so she was given a word that she had to talk about for 30 seconds. So when I asked her to come up with a word for my next guest, being you, to talk about for 30 seconds, she'd come up with the word capture. So what I'd like you to do, and you've only got, and I've been a bit lax on this recently, everybody, I have, right? So Katie, I'm going to be very strict with you this one. So you can see the timer up on the screen.
I can
for
get time
30
cues.
seconds. Yep. Yeah, you can, obviously. So for 30 seconds, and I'll put both hands up when you got 10 left, and palm up when you got 5, right?
Brilliant.
Can you talk to us about the word capture? And it could be related to your work, it could be related to your geekiness, it could be any way you like, perhaps to something we've discussed or whatever. So whenever you're ready, the word capture.
Right. Well, for the word capture, it immediately goes to photos for me because meteorology is a very visual field. You capture a photo of a tornado, you capture a photo of a sunset. Anyone can capture a picture of the weather that's around them. And I love to collect those pictures. It tells a whole story that you couldn't relay audibly because it's difficult to explain how vibrant a sunset is. If you show a picture, someone knows that, or you have a textile of it. It's gorgeous, and I hope more people capture the weather around them.
Oh, that works, doesn't it? It
does. The
non-verbal, yeah. Woo. Nice. That was perfect, Katie.
I don't know
Thank
if that made
you
any
so
sense.
much.
I've been up for way too long, so I'm done. I'm fading. At least sense-wise.
Like, I know what you're saying, folks. So, Katie, it's only like 4:30 in the afternoon. It's like, no. Did you hear the shifts that she does? Anyway.
Midnight.
Before I let you go, I can't let you go without giving our next guest the word that they're going to do for 30 seconds.
Oh, how about consequential?
Oh my goodness, that's a lovely one. Let me type
That's
that
only
down before I forget.
We used it on our morning show in a script this morning, and I was like, ooh, buzzword. We don't use that often, so consequential.
Right. I got a challenge for you then, right?
Yes.
I tell you what, when you do your next broadcast, whatever, I want you to try and squeeze the word capture into it.
I will try to do that. I stream every Friday, so I can try that.
So and then you can so we can capture you saying the word capture on that, and maybe a little side wink as you say it, and I just say, "Kit, I've got you, girl." So any shout outs you'd like to give, and where can we find you out there in the digital ether?
Oh, yes, you can find me literally everywhere. I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. TikTok is my big one. I'm almost about to hit 100,000 followers there. I got Mastodon, Blue Sky, what's the Threads? Email?
Threads.
It's all of it is at weather_Katie.
Email? What's email? That sounds so 2010s.
Yes. Oh, it's great though because it's so much cleaner. It's a nice format in email. It's ding 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 done. Oh, but yes, no. At weather_Katie. I am also on YouTube. My handle is so many random fandoms because it's true. And
love it.
Yeah, you can always just find me on television or just look up bird poop and icicles. That's the best way to find me. I went viral for that, and now I can't run for president because if you look up my name, bird poop, immediate bird poop. It has ruined any public image I could have had.
Good God, folks. They're not even going to listen to the rest of this now. They've just off and Googling that now.
Yep. All of a sudden, bird poop.
Brilliant. Oh, I don't have any words for how much joy I've had for the last hour, Katie. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And I hope you keep in touch.
Definitely.
Go storm chasing. I want to go storm chasing. Take me storm chasing, Katie. Take me storm chasing.
Just crack open some iron brew and just take it to a tornado.
Yes. And on that note, folks, I think we shall say bye. Thank you very much, Katie.
Farewell.
thank you so much for listening. We hope you had fun. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe so more stories and experiences can drop into your favourite podcast app. If you fancy being a guest or have any feedback, follow us on Twitter at coffeegeogpod and send us a DM. Or you could email coffeeandgeog@geogramblings.com. Until next time, keep geogging.